Well, hello everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Happy Sunday. Welcome, welcome. Where's all my playmates at? How's everybody doing tonight? Did you guys miss me? Hello, hello, hello. So tonight I thought we would do a little connecting the dots between the last 2 or 3 episodes we've been doing. We did about surrender, and then we basically opened the heart chakra on the last episode where we got into Christ consciousness. But tonight I want to reel it back, because what we just did is, from a satsang perspective, is we just dove into the deep end of the pool, and that may have been very overwhelming in a delightful way. It may have been very, very eye-opening in many, many ways, and I'm hoping that it excited you in a lot of ways. But I'm sure some of you are probably going, well, what do we do from here? How do I, sorry about that, I'll get the camera better. But I'm sure many of you are saying, well, I'm not sure how to get there. I can see what you're saying, Ford. I see that what the Christ consciousness is. I can see logically how you're saying it's only now, but I'm not really sure how to get there. So tonight's is going to be about that. We're going to talk about, we're going to kind of sew the last few episodes together, which have to do with surrender. We're going to sew together basically the lower chakras, which are the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus chakra, to enter us into the kingdom of heaven, which is the heart chakra. And this is all going to be about releasing. Tonight is all going to be about releasing all of this stuff that keeps us tethered to the terrestrial. So you guys ready? All right, here we go. And I'm back. How you guys doing? Hello, hello, hello. We got Atlas in the house tonight. He's sort of paying attention. Let's see if I can get him in the shot here a little bit. He's like, all right, I'll dig it for a minute. Cool camera shot is back. Been out of commission. My internet was crazy for the last couple months, and I couldn't do all those crazy camera angles without it glitching out. So hopefully tonight we're going to be in good shape. It looks pretty good so far. So welcome back to the show, and thank you guys for all of the support lately. And I thought tonight is going to might seem remedial to some of you. I have a feeling that if I've shown up on your radar, so to speak, you're probably already past a lot of these stages that I'm going to talk about. But then again, some of you may think that you're way further advanced than you really are, and that seems to be the case with most people. I got the idea for this last night. I went to a really beautiful party last night at a farm to celebrate the birth of this black sheep, this little black lamb that was born. And to some friends of mine had this baby lamb that was born, and it was black, and everybody kind of gathered around to check this thing out, and there was a nice little party and wine tasting. And I got to feed this beautiful lamb with a bottle. It was so nice. It was so nice to be part of that. But I got to engage with a lot of people last night and talk, and this seems to be very, very much a desired topic to get into. It seems that everybody is awakening these days, and we're all kind of on this tip, are we not? Awesome. Hang on a second. Here we go. So, I was talking to somebody, I won't mention names, but someone was very, very young last night, and she was talking about the shadow work she's doing, and I was just it kind of threw me for a loop, because I thought to myself, well, you can't be in your young 20s and doing shadow work. I mean, maybe you can, but I kind of feel like this is more of the spiritual practice can be maintained as you're young, and just be made aware of some of the things that we go through, and keeping an eye on the way that the ego works. Those are all really, really important things. But as far as shadow work goes, there's a lot of power in the shadow, and I think when you're young, you're still getting your footing. You haven't really figured out what your shadow is yet, and how your shadow is traumatizing you as well as empowering you. So don't be so quick to dump your shadow when you're first, getting on this tip. I think a lot of us are stressed out and feeling a lot of anxiety, and we're looking for spirituality as a mechanism of escape. And spirituality is the furthest thing from escape. It is an escape, but you escape through diving into the deepness of it. So until you're ready to do that, just think about everything before you dive blindly into things. So that's all I had to really say about that. How's everybody doing tonight? We got a nice really big crowd in here. Awesome. We got Jeff in the house, Joel's in the house, Susie Q's in the house. I love you guys so much. Awesome. Amani is in the house. Right on. Great to see everybody here tonight. I know it's late. I'm trying to make it up for all the West Coast people out there, so they don't have to log on too early. So tonight, we're going to get into chakras a little bit and explain it from the get-go of what they are, and essentially give you this little chart here. And now the chakras are not these bubbles inside of the body. The chakras are the energy bubbles. You could say that they're just lenses through which we look at reality, and they're about 9 meters in diameter, and 3 meters in diameter, and there's these chakras here, and the root chakra at the bottom here represents your first person of beingness, which is the I amness. This is you completely rooted into the terrestrial form, and we'll come back into that. And then the next chakra up here is the sacral chakra, which is your first chakra of solidarity. And people argue with me about that a lot of the times. I say the reason I say that that's the first chakra of solidarity is because the root chakra is the chakra that we're all in from birth, right? We're very, very grounded to reality. We're kind of stuck in the root, and most people don't even know that they're in a root. So awakening to the fact that you're in a root is the very first step. And then the sacral chakra is our first chakra, our lens of looking at reality, where we've managed to escape the lower level of the root chakra. So in a sense, there is our first level of solidarity, is our first level of breaking free. And then above that, we have the solar plexus. And the solar plexus is the regulator of all of our boundaries and our willpower. Now, the reason these things are important is these are kind of ways that you're gonna use these as like push buttons for the mind. When you can recognize these aspects of mind within yourself, you can use them as like a throttle and a brake and a turn left, turn right kind of a thing. You're using these little aspects of yourself to navigate through your spiritual ascension, your spiritual awakening. Now, getting back to what I was saying when I'm meeting the people at a party and stuff, this stuff, spirituality, spiritual awakening, is a very, very trending thing. When I was first getting into this a couple of decades ago, it was almost as if nobody had heard of this. It was very, very, very rare. Only a few nerdy people like me. Let's put it this way: the first few conferences that I went to, I was probably the only American at these conferences when I went to them to see some of these gurus. So now there's a yoga center in every single shopping mall, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I think it shows this sense of awakening and how everybody is just kind of realizing the futility of a terrestrial life on Earth, I guess, so to speak, which is awesome. But because we have a short attention span, and Americans are very much like, oh, I got to get it by Tuesday. I have to have it by Wednesday. I have to have it now. Now everything's about now, right away. And this is not. It's not like you're going to get your black belt on Tuesday, and then your orange belt on in July of next month, and then your green belt, and then your black belt, 4 months later. It doesn't work like that. These are lifelong pursuits of refinement, and that's what all of this is about. This is about refinement of the self, because what we're refining is the self that you have is still the self. It is still the Godhead looking through your eyes, but your eyes are filled with layers and layers of veils of deception. So you're not really getting a clear picture of what this looks like out here. You're only seeing it through these veils. Like, imagine wearing like 7 pairs of sunglasses, right? You can kind of see what's going on out there, but you're not really getting a clear picture. Or kind of looking through things through a telescope lens, right? You can kind of look around and see what's going on, but that's a very different picture from this, right? They're both true, but it's also a very limited perspective of the thing. So as we awaken these chakras within us, we're dropping veils within our perception, and as we drop the veils, it's as if we're getting this wider frame of perception. And as we go up the chakras, there's a wider frame and a wider frame and a wider frame. Before you know it, you're able to see everything very, very clearly as it is. And that's when you start working on self-actualization. You guys with me so far? You good? Awesome. I sat down here, I'm like, what did I forget? I forgot my glasses, I forgot my water, I forgot all kinds of stuff. It's all right. I'm going to make it through this. And I have water cam set up, and I have nothing to drink. Oh well, there we go. Right on. So getting into the chakra system here. I guess what I'm saying with all of that pretense going into this is that don't rush it. There's no reason to rush it. There's no reason to beat yourself up over anything. Live life a little bit if you're young, and start to see where your failings are. Start to see where life is falling short for you. Start to see where some of your narcissism is getting in the way. Start to recognize the simple things, the things right there on the surface. Start to recognize that stuff first. Where you're jealous, where you're needy, where you don't feel secure. If you work on that, that's going to prepare you for this ascension more than anything. But if you dive in too early, it's going to be very frustrating for you because you haven't determined the fullness of these veils that you're dropping. You got me? It's hard to talk about. So, getting back to the chakras. So, essentially, as we come into, we have to realize that everything is the mind of God. We are all in the mind of God, as we discussed last week when we got into Christ consciousness, that only the here and now exists, that anything that we consider real or in the future or in the past or in the exterior, all of it lives in the mind because all of it is processed through the mind. Even the present moment is processed through the mind. Therefore, what we call the physical world is not necessarily a physical world. It's a psychophysical world because all of it is perceived through the mind. You got me? Now, that is a very high perspective of things. It's a very, very high view of things. And I brought you up to this place to take a look at it so you can catch that glimpse of what I was talking about. But most of us are living down here in this root chakra. And how you know that is if the domineering thoughts in your mind are security-based, sex-based, earthly-based, attachment to things, right? Thoughts become things, and if you're more attached to the thing than the think, then you're probably rooted in the chakra. Rooted in the root chakra, I should say. If you're dealing with money issues, it doesn't matter, not necessarily if you have a lot of money and you're overspending or you don't have enough money to survive. Those are all very security-based issues. If you might have mommy or daddy issues, again, security-based issues. So a lot of these things are like the normal trauma that everyone is growing up with, right? This is just the trauma of culture being imprinted on us. And as I say all the time on the show, that Terence McKenna says is that culture is not your friend. Culture is the thing that traumatizes us. It's our trying to adapt for the sake of culture that creates all of the suffering. All of the suffering. So the root chakra, which is down here at the bottom here, that encompasses a lot of these feelings, and a lot of that trauma is all based down there in that root red chakra at the bottom. And that's the lens through which we're viewing the world. It's this very, very narrow lens, right? And what you have to realize in the root chakra is that at first recognize that this is where you are, right? You're already here from birth to this is where you are due to the trauma of the world. Now, what our intention is to move up from the root into the sacral chakra, which is the next chakra up. Again, sacral is our first chakra of solidarity. This says this is where I create not only there's a healing to the separation of the world. So in the root chakra, you are separate from the world. You see everybody as a separate being. There's no connection to the outside world being a reflection of your interior world. There's just you, your experience, and then the idea of other people, other scenarios, other times, other situations. Rising out of the root chakra is to recognize that there is no other, or that what is perceived as other is somehow connected to your own filters of how you perceive the world. There's a connection there, and that we're not actually ever perceiving anything on the outside. We're only seeing a reflection of who we have become. That's the only way we see people. And there's a forgiveness in that when we really start to recognize that the things that we might see in other people that we like or don't like, these are all reflections of the type of person that we've become. And what we see in them that we like might be things in them that we like about ourselves, or things that we admire about a person that we would like to have for ourselves. And then when we see things in other people that we don't like, these are usually aspects of ourself that we're projecting outwards so we can see that for ourselves. This is what karma is all about. You get back what you put in, and you get it back as a mirror so that you can see what you're doing. So the sacral chakra is the beginning of the union between yourself and the world outside. It's the very, very beginning of recognizing that the world is a dream. It's the very beginning of recognizing this symbiotic relationship between how you feel and how you perceive. Up until this point, there isn't that. There's just feelings happening and experiences happening, and there's no connection to them. As a matter of fact, people trapped in the root chakra say, well, this thing happened and it made me feel this way. You did this and you made me feel like this. Why are you making me feel like this? Well, he did this and it made me feel like this. No, you made you feel. There's only feeling. There's feeling that's happening, and then that feeling is processed as an external thing. So it doesn't go from the outside in, it goes from the inside out. You guys with me? Feeling and experiencing. And realize the symbiotic, reflective relationship between the two. It's not two separate things happening. It's one continuous symbiotic thing. It's this flowing state of consciousness. I feel, so I experience. Not the other way around. It's all coming from you. It's all coming from the center of who you are, and it's all coming from the center of who you've become. Now, this is a pretty tough chakra to get into. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of forgiveness, mostly, of letting things go. All of these have different levels of letting things go, but the root chakra, when you're in the root chakra, that's when you're going to be the most connected to terrestrial. That's why it's the lowest to the ground. This terrestrial connection that you're having is a very visceral connection to things and other people, and the sacral is going to be more of a letting go of that and seeing this relationship between the things and the self. So it becomes less of this space between who you are and what you want, and more of who you are, and this is what it's reflecting. And that's the sacral chakra. Sorry, I thought the camera was on me for a second. Awesome. So the way I want you to kind of see what's happening is, as I say all the time on the show, we are dipole. That little spark in the middle is the spark of your heart. And that spark not only pumps the blood through your body, but that spark is also creating the entire reality in your reality bubble. Let's call this entire bubble here, this thing that looks like a donut, let's just call that your dream, the dream of you. And then I have a toroid, and there's a dream of me, and sometimes my toroid bumps into your toroid, and we have this shared experience together. But you are the center of your reality. You are the center. You're that spark. And on the metaphysical plane, let me show you here. On the metaphysical plane, the energy. This is where the energy is coming from. It's coming from this void of black here. Now, this void of black is not empty. We call it emptiness. We call it nothingness. But really, what it is it is the inverse or the negative image of infinity. So we say infinity has an infinite possibility. Nothingness or absence, or whatever you want to call this emptiness here, is the negative image of infinity. So it's equally, as much as infinity is complex, the nothingness is not complex. It is complex in its simplicity. That's a way to say that there. So we've got this bubble of energy, and the dipole is the center, and that spark is who you are. And that spark goes out and creates the dream bubble, because remember, all of this is in the mind of God. And what we're calling terrestrial land, what we're calling the flat earth, what we're calling the round earth, is this green area down here at the bottom. And it is connected to the earth, right? Now, it's the earth in a dream, but we're in the dream. We're in the psychophysical world, and in the psychophysical world, the earth is very, very real. It is real. I mean, you're dreaming that it's real. I knock on this table, it feels very real, acts very real. So in the dream, I have to treat it as such. And the root chakra is very, very much connected to the earth that way. And then the sacral chakra is lifting up from that just a tiny bit. Now what I want to show you is the spark goes around through the dipole, and it creates the dream of your reality. And then it creates this, so it's creating this bubble, this kind of frame of reality around you. And do you see how it's drawing the energy up from the earth? It's drawing everything up from the bottom. The energy comes from the ground, up through your feet into the root chakra, and then into the sacral chakra, and then to the solar plexus, and then into the heart, and then into the throat, and then to the third eye, and then the crown. And when it gets to the crown, above the crown is what's called the fountainhead, or the 8th chakra, where all of the energy that's been processed through the chakras comes raining down around you to recreate the dream. And this is happening, like, you could say, let's just say for sake of argument, it's happening 1 trillion times a second. You know, it's this inconceivable frame rate of reality happening, of pulling information up from the root of the terrestrial plane, processing it through all your processing centers, and then it rains out the top of your fountainhead as a dream. Now, when we're in the root and we're in the sacral, we're not really sure, like, again, you're like, well, how do I get to this dream understanding? Logically, I understand what you're saying, Ford. It's a dream, and nothing's real, and I'm in this bubble reality, but I'm not really sure how to deal with that because right now I'm stuck in the dream. And this is where you have to start practices. You have to decide that this is what you want. Spirituality is not something that you can like half-ass. It's not the kind of thing that you sign up for the gym on January and you're into it for a couple months and then you check out, and then you tap in again in August, and then you check out for a while. It doesn't work that way. This is something you have to be committed to, and you have to stick with it. The beautiful thing is that as you stick with it, just like exercise and other things, you'll start to see benefits from it very, very quickly, and it will encourage you to stick with it and and try to get better at things. Now, this is less of a trying and more of just a paying attention to. It's paying attention to where you're placing your focus more than anything. Now, you can go and take meditation classes, and you can travel all around and do your end of your yoga, and you can sit there and you can kind of quiet the mind and recognize that thoughts are coming in, and as the thoughts come in, you put them away. And yes, this is all about exercising the muscle of the imagination. Very, very important part of this process. But the meditation process is going to do absolutely nothing for you unless you can learn to bring your life into meditation. That has to be the process first. How do I bring my life into meditation? I don't know if you guys can hear him snoring up a storm over there. So you bring your life into meditation. Well, how do I do that? That starts by setting boundaries with yourself. Not with other people, setting boundaries with yourself. It's setting boundaries of where you're placing your attention. And it's recognizing too that the dream world, the world out here, is a reflection of the mind, right? So if you're in a cluttered mess, if your world is a mess all the time, it's a reflection, it's an extrapolation of a cluttered mind on the inside. This is why Jordan Peterson, who's an amazing psychologist and philosopher, says clean your room. He's got a whole book about cleaning your room, the importance of cleaning your room. It's very important. It's just that we call this feng shui. It's a very important part of getting the mind right. It's to recognize that the clutter and everything around you is a mental projection of the cluttered thoughts within the mind. And you need to have organization there. And you need to have the organization if you hope to catch yourself getting sucked into the dream. With all the clutter, it's very, very easy to lose yourself into the dream and not have a good enough angle of what's happening to pull yourself out of it. Like, when there's so much chaos in your life, you get sucked into these aspects of trauma and things in the dream. You don't have a better perspective to go, whoa, I am really getting sucked into this bullshit. I shouldn't be sucked into this, right? So the cleanliness and the order is going to help you do that. And it's not just about cleaning your room. It's not like, okay, I'm going to have spring cleaning. It's recognizing that your surroundings are like the mind. They are your mind. So as you're deciding to clean, you're making a spiritual practice out of it. Okay? Things that no longer serve you, they go in the trash can. You get rid of them. You don't hold on to them. This is very hard for some people who are hoarders. The reason that people hoard things is because there's a mental tick in there that just says that if they throw something away, there's a fear that they're going to lose the memory that went along with that. It's obviously not conscious. It's something that they're not even really realizing that they're doing, but that's the root of the disorder. And to a degree, we're all doing that to a degree. That's why we save all these old trinkets. But you have to realize you've got to unload a lot of the stuff. You got to unload a lot of the stuff that's taxing on the mind and holding you back. So refine the mind by refining your surroundings. It's a great first step. Really, really great first step. As you throw things away that are no longer serving you, attach something in your life to this object that that no longer serves you. Say you find some bear that you won at a carnival 6 years ago. I mean, something that with a with a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever that is no longer in your life. Take these things and unload them, and assign the thought to these things as you unload them. Create order in your life. Make sure in your space there's plenty of flow. You want the energy to be able to flow into the door and flow out without any obstruction. This is all to help you make a clear flow for the mind, for your thoughts to flow freely through the mind. When everything is flowing freely, it's easy to stand on the shore and go, oh, that's a good thought. Oh, that's not a good thought. Oh, that's a good thought. Just like you do in your meditation, right? Your meditation, you're almost sitting on the shore, and the thoughts are coming in, and you're going, no, I'm not going to think about that. You put it away. No, I'm not going to think about that. You put it away. It's kind of the same thing, but you're doing it on the physical plane, which reinforces it through fractality into the mind. So that is a great first step to gaining control of yourself. It's gaining control of your sovereignty. It's taking control of the things that you can take control over. They're really, really important steps. So work on getting your meditation in order. You're getting your life into meditation. Another way of bringing your life into meditation is to set aside time for yourself. Go on walking meditations. Walking meditations are a little bit different from regular meditation, where meditation is you're allowing thoughts to come in, you're recognizing that it's a thought, and you're putting the thought away. Go on a walking meditation, and the idea is you should do this alone, and don't bring your phone, and don't do it for the purpose of exercise or some point, or have some sort of agenda with it. The agenda is just getting in touch with nature and allowing the mind to wander. If it starts to wander into non-constructive things like work, just be like, I'm not getting paid to think about work right now, and you throw that away. But if the thought comes through that is more introspective, and it's a thought about yourself and about your relationship with the world out there, then engage it and go deep into it and try to ask yourself, why are you thinking about that? And what does it mean? What is the metaphor of that item that keeps coming up? It may not be literal. It might be a metaphoric thing that it's trying to tell you about yourself. But setting the intention to refine yourself is a great first step. And having the action step in the dream of cleaning your room is a way of sending that signal, reinforcing that signal of an intention to bring your life into meditation. And that starts the dominoes. That's like setting up all the dominoes, and that's like hitting the first domino as that action step. It's a really important step. All right. How's everybody doing so far? You guys good? Man, we got 50 people in here. It's awesome. It's fantastic. You guys are fantastic. Thank you very much. By the way, we set up a question answer thing. Joel did for us. So if you have any questions, just feel free to put them in there, or put them in all capitals in here. And they don't have to be on topic. Feel free to ask whatever you want to ask. Okay, so these are the basics of the root chakra and the sacral chakra, which is bringing your life into meditation. The biggest thing is, and this is a hard one, is turning off your phone, getting away from the electronic devices. You don't always have to be on call. You know, you can be on call for yourself. And you have to realize too that all of these aspects of spirituality, where we're looking for the space to work on ourselves. We live in a world that is run by the adversary, and the adversary's only job is to keep this secret from you. The adversary is not going to give you the space to work on yourself. As a matter of fact, every time you try to work on yourself, the adversary is going to come up with a reason why you can't. This is the job of the adversary. This is what it does. So just recognize that that's part of it. And these aspects of sovereignty on your spiritual journey are like a boon. You have to take it. No one is going to give it to you. You have to be the one to have the strength in you, the personal self-worth to say no. This is about me. I need this time to work on me. I know for a lot of you that is really, really hard. For me, that was really hard. Maybe some of you guys are assholes and that's easy. We're all on a different journey. But for me, that was a really, really hard step to just say, to decide to put me first, to decide to put my mental health first. It's a very, very important step. And you're putting your mental health first, but it's not about going to a shrink and have someone tell you what your thoughts should be. It's really about just diving deep into who you are and looking into the things that you love about yourself and the things that you don't love about yourself, and looking at ways that you can correct that. You don't have to be the person you've always been. There's no rule that says that. You can reinvent yourself every single day. This is the new Ford. Today I'm super nice. On Thursdays I get very, very irritable. I'm just saying. But you decide who you are, and that you take this time to work on it by shedding the things that no longer serve us and enhancing the things that do serve us. Everybody with me? Cool. We lost Atlas. It's all right. All right, so moving right up. Now we're getting into the solar plexus chakra. Now this is a really, really big deal. And now I'm rushing through these. We went from root to sacral to solar plexus, and I'm making this sound like you're going to go through this in 6 months. No. You're going to be in the root chakra for a year or so, maybe a few years. You're going to notice you're in there, and then there's going to be a magical moment when you step into the sacral, and you're going to notice it. It's going to be a major shift in your life when you get into the sacral. It's going to be the first time you start to notice compassion for other people. You're going to start to notice all kinds of beautiful qualities about yourself and about your life. You might have a better attitude at work. You might have a better attitude when you go out. Maybe you don't complain as much. Maybe you're quicker to compliment people. All that will take place in the sacral chakra. And these things happen automatically. These will be changes to your personality that are automatic. So from the sacral, you'll be in the sacral for years, and then you'll start moving into the solar plexus. And the solar plexus is where we're getting to some really serious stuff now. We're really cooking with grease, as they say. And the solar plexus is about your willpower. It's about operating and functioning of the willpower. And it's also about setting boundaries. Now, the strength for the setting boundaries, this is why you can't rush through these things. If you just rush through the root and you rush through the sacral, and then you thought you were into the solar plexus, well, you haven't done the groundwork that gives you the sense of personal sovereignty and strength to set up those boundaries. You'll be a weakling with those boundaries. But through igniting and exciting the sacral and the root chakra, you're going to realize the importance of the sovereignty and the importance of building up your self-worth. These are very, very crucial components to this. A lot of what I'm teaching here and showing you here is foundational. So, if you mess up your foundation, the whole thing is screwed up, right? You got to really, really make sure you got these areas here ironed out. Really, really good. And you'll notice when you're moving past these things. The security issues will fall away when you do the root chakra. Suddenly money will come in and won't be a problem so much for you anymore. And these things that were your previous problems will start to fall away, and new problems will pile on. They're just higher forms of problems. So we've moved past the root, we've moved past the sacral, and now we're moving into the solar plexus, which is to teach us all about these boundaries. And this is where we have to really evoke the archetype of Michael. who is the strength. And the reason it's important is because the next chakra up is the heart chakra. That is the chakra of the Christ. And everything up from this point, this is the last chakra before we get into the higher chakras. And everything above the solar plexus is considered heaven. These are the waters of heaven. So think of the solar plexus as the area where that star, that dipole is in the middle of that toroid. Everything above it is the metaphysical plane. And you cannot pollute those waters with any of the bullshit of the root chakra and sacral chakra. None of that stuff can come in. It can't come in. And that is what the solar plexus is all about. It's also recognizing that you can't come any further than that. You got to drop the identities. So you say to yourself, well, Ford, how do I drop an identity and have a boundary? This is where balance comes in. It's recognizing the truth, but learning how to play with your ego. Up until this point, you're learning about dropping the ego. I have to deny my ego. The ego's bad. Ego's bad. I can't have my ego. You point ego out in other people. Oh, ego, that person's egotistical. The ego is bad when it's not serving you. But through the root chakra and the sacral chakra, you're teaching the ego to be your instrument. It's your instrument of expression. So it's to realize that the ego, this aspect of the ego, both exists and doesn't exist at the same time. And when it's in its motion, to choose with your focus to be the person sitting behind the ego, watching what's happening. And through the solar plexus, you're learning how to engage only just enough to nudge it into the directions that you want to go. You're using the ego as your instrument of expression, and you're nudging it with your focus. Okay? Now, the solar plexus is very high up on this mountain, okay? And it's kind of like we talk about the king of the hill. When you get into the solar plexus, you're going to face all kinds of challenges where people are going to want to kind of pull you down from this area. You're the king of the hill. And excuse me. And these challenges are challenges of integrity, like I said, because you can't allow anything to move past this area to pollute the waters of the heart and the throat and the third eye and the crown. Can't come in. So as the Archangel Michael says, he puts his foot down and his sword, and he says, "Here and no further." And he'll cut your head off. Here and no further. And that's what you have to evoke in you. And this is where you get the strength for boundaries. So what does all that mean? It sounds very cryptic. What it means is you're reaching a level of your state of mind that you cannot allow things from the outside to pollute the waters that you're creating for yourself. Because you're about to enter this harbor of the heart, and all the polluted waters can't come in there with you. So if there are situations and people in your life that are constantly bringing you down, they have to go. They have to go. Now that sounds pretty scary to some of you, but realize first that the majority of these people that are maybe giving you a hard time in the root chakra and sacral chakra, most of these people are going to start to fall away automatically. They're just, no matter how good of friends you might be, you're going to be vibrating at a different level than they are. And if they're not keeping up with you, they're going to just fall away. You're going to be tuning into a new station that they're not tuned into. And it won't necessarily be an ugly departure. It'll just be, you'll just kind of move on from each other. And it will probably be very easy, and it'll be very gradual that neither one of you really notices it much. But people will just suddenly fall away. And one day you'll be like, oh my gosh, I don't have almost any of my friends that I had 5 years ago as all new friends. And that's what's happening. Your vibration's changing. But the things to realize as you're building all of this up in the sacral and in the root is you're building up this sense of self-worth to establish boundaries using and evoking the power of Archangel Michael. And when situations arise that cause you to have a bunch of negative emotions, or you notice this correlation between negative emotions and outside events, you've got to shift your focus away from these events. And a lot of times that might mean cutting off people that you're very, very attached to. It might be cutting off situations that you're very, very attached to. It's trimming the fat of anything that is not making you feel worthy of divine love. And you will not be able to move up any further until you trim away all that stuff. You'll be stuck right there, and I do. And we want to get to the heart, right? We were in the heart last week when we were talking about Christ consciousness, the eternal now. It's about giving yourself permission to find the eternal now, to not just take my word for it, that only the now exists, to realize that the holiest people who have ever lived are all telling us this, that not only is it in our science, it is in all of our religions, and it's in metaphysics. We know it's in metaphysics. So this is the truth, folks. This is what it is. And it's will you have the courage to really believe that and go for it. That takes courage. It takes courage. So the other aspect of the solar plexus besides boundaries is the regulation of your willpower. Okay? This is where action steps come very much into play. They come into play again on all of the chakras to a degree. But now is where you should be getting a good sense of yourself. A really, really good sense of not necessarily dreams, but just a good sense of feeling like you're going in the right direction. You may not necessarily know what that direction is, but it will feel like you're floating downstream for the first time. That should be the feeling of the solar plexus when it's in tune. And that's what we're doing, folks, by the way. We're tuning these chakras. A lot of people like to say that we're opening them or we're activating them. Look, we're always using them. Imagine these as like the strings of a guitar, okay? We're plucking all of those strings to play any kind of song, but they get out of tune. They get all messed up. Each one gets out of tune and kind of messed up. And what we have to do is we have to start from the bottom. We have to get that one in tune. And because we have the lower one in tune, we can use that one that's in tune on the bottom to tune the second one. And then when we got those other two in tune, we can use those two to tune the third one, and so forth. But this is a tuning. It's a tuning of your system. So don't feel like you're broken. Don't feel like there's something wrong with you. Don't feel like you're not activated and your other friends are activated. That's a bunch of ego shit. Just you're a beautiful guitar and they're a beautiful guitar, and all guitars go out of tune. They just do. Every instrument goes out of tune. I have to have my piano tuned every single month. It's just the nature of an instrument. But if we haven't tuned our instrument ever, well, it's going to be really out of tune. It might be really, really hard to get into tune. And treat it like music. Each one of these aspects, I'm not saying to avoid things that are difficult, because every aspect of this is going to be difficult. And what I mean by difficult is, and I'm going to steal this from Alan Watts. Alan Watts says, he says, you're doing it right if the experience that you're feeling is damned if you do and damned if you don't at the same time. That's pretty much where you want to be as you're moving through the chakras. Damned if you do and damned if you don't simultaneously. That's the balance. And the adversary is going to constantly throw things at us that are going to require us to make choices where we feel like we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. And that's how you know you're in the right path. You're working on it. And be patient with yourself. Be very, very patient with yourself. The solar plexus is honestly I don't. The solar plexus is probably the most difficult one to go through. It's a very short-lived experience. The sacral seems to me to be the longest one. That seems, the root chakra obviously the longest one because we're not even aware that we're in it for most of our life. But as you awaken and then you go into the sacral feels like it takes a long time to get your footing on exactly what's taking place in this lens of the sacral. So we've been looking through the root chakra our whole life, and this is our perspective of the world, right? And then we moved into the sacral, and we kind of know that there's something going on because we've got this wider view of the world, and we can kind of see things more, but it's still very, very clueless, and it takes quite some time, or the experience of time, to move past that level of consciousness before that veil drops and you get an even wider perspective. The sacral is going to be noticeable to you because you'll start having magical things happen to you in the sacral thing. When you start getting into the sacral is when you're going to start to notice synchronicities. Synchronicities will abound. You'll start seeing numbers on license plates that are meaningful to you. You'll start hearing lyrics on radios on songs that are meaningful to you, or you'll be having a spiritual thought, and then you'll walk into a grocery store, and then the person next to you says something that maybe finished the thought you're having about the spiritual thing. You'll have all kinds of crazy, interesting synchronicities like that. And those will increase more and more and more as you ascend up the chakras here and getting them all in tune. Have you guys ever been to like a museum where they have those? I'm not sure what it's called. There's a certain type of art where it's like a whole bunch of junk everywhere, but when you stand right in the exact spot, everything kind of lines up, and it's a perfect picture of like Charlie Chaplin or Nikola Tesla or something like that. You guys know what I'm talking about? That's what's kind of happening with these chakras. It's like you've got all these chaotic components to each one of these mind centers, and as you're tuning them, you're moving to this just the right area where you can kind of see, and you can suddenly see through all the chakras all at once. It's kind of something like that. Tuning them so you can make beautiful music. You know, you can have all of these chakras tuned. They could all be tuned just perfectly, and you've worked them all on all your whole life, and you got them all in line and working really well for you. But if just one of them is out, your song is going to play like shit. So you got to constantly work on yourself. You got to constantly be paying attention. It's just because you graduated from the root chakra doesn't mean you don't pay attention to it anymore. You got to constantly monitor it. And it's the same thing for the sacral. And so what I'm describing here is what the Kundalini is. This is the rising of the Kundalini. And it's depicted by a couple of snakes intertwined going up the spine. And you might have seen the caduceus, right? We see the medical staff symbol of the caduceus. We use it for the medical symbol. This is what it's referring to. This is the rise of the Kundalini. That's what it's all about. So when we can learn to focus our willpower in the solar plexus, we're starting to have a very keen presence and awareness of where we're placing our focus. And we're going to place the focus on what feels good. And what feels good is usually the thing that lights you up. It's the thing that's probably going to be the most natural to you. As you go through the sacral chakra, a lot of that is going to have to do with authenticity. It's the first level of solidarity, and part of solidarity is discovering who you are. Discovering that maybe not necessarily who you are, but definitely realizing that the person that you thought you were is a construct that was created by culture. And so the sacral is going to be about realizing that the person you thought you were is a construct. The solar plexus is going to be about building your new construct. And you make it however you want it to be. There's no judgment. But you're going to find that you'll find that your needs are met, and because your needs are met, the problems that are going to arise for you are going to be quite different. And the only tips I can give you here are that there's more charge to be built for yourself by being compassionate to other people. If the more that you can do to help others, and I don't mean like fly to Africa and feed the homeless or build, I mean, whatever floats your boat, but I just mean simple things, helping people, pitching in and helping someone empty the dishwasher, going the extra mile to really see a friend that you haven't seen in a long time, to cheer them up when they're down, really going out of your way to just bring love into the world. That's it. You're going to find that doing these random acts of kindness are very, very charging to your system. Very, very charging. And in that charge, you're going to get a great sense of who you are, and a great sense of what fills you up and lights you up and brings you fulfillment. It'll be discovered in there. Is everybody with me? So I've been talking for about an hour. I'm going to go to the questions now. It wasn't my intention to cover all the chakras today. I just wanted to get into the lower third, the lower three chakras. The last episode was all about the heart chakra. It was all about Christ consciousness. That's what the heart chakra is about. The heart chakra is about loving yourself, learning how to love yourself, and realizing that in loving yourself, you're capable of loving others. Because again, there is no other. What we perceive as other is a reflection of who we have become. And through total acceptance and love of the self, through the heart, through an open heart, we can fully accept and love everybody that we encounter on the outside, with complete freedom, with complete forgiveness, and curiosity. And that's when life really starts becoming miraculous and beautiful. And that leads to the throat and the third eye and the crown, which we'll get into on another episode. I want you just mostly to focus on the lower three, because that's really where most of us are at. And I want you to recognize all the different aspects to those chakras. Do you guys have any questions? Let me see. We set up this special questionnaire thing here. Let's see. Well, I'm trying to learn how to use this thing here. Well, anybody's got any questions? No questions? Really? You guys are that smart? You guys are awesome. Boy, we got 53 people in here, but no one has got a question. I love it. You guys are so awesomely smart. Fantastic. Boy, a lot of comments. Fantastic, everybody. So really, more than anything, is just to be patient with yourself through all of this. Have lots of patience through all of it. And patience with other people too. And if you've been blessed to be given that spark to feel this need to awaken, be grateful that you've been given this spark and that it's your time to awaken. It is not necessarily everyone's time to awaken. There are young souls and old souls. You could meet a 70-year-old woman who is a young soul, a soul who's younger than you, and you can meet a child who's got a 90-year-old, a soul of a 90-year-old. We're all at different levels of this, and we're all playing on our own game. So don't be concerned with getting other people on this trip. You might be awakening, and you're going to want to share it with other people, which is great. Share. You're going to find that when you share it with other people, you're going to digest it differently for the first time. but don't force it down people's necks. Don't force it on to your family or friends, or say you have to get in with this, or I can't be your friend. You don't want to turn it into that kind of a thing. Just have patience and love everybody. The people who are not getting this or not interested in this are just aspects of yourself that know they have to fall away, and they don't want you to see this aspect of them. It's all happening on an unconscious level. And as you're awakening these lower chakras too, it's really, really important that you connect with the earth. I heard Shunyamurti talk today. He's another one of my favorite teachers, Shunyamurti. And he's got, I think his channel is called Sat Yoga. It's really, really good. But he was talking about how terrestrial and terrified are such similar words, because the God consciousness of the Father gets into the emptiness of the void, and the blackness of the void there is terrifying. It's terrifying to even God, because it has infinite responsibility. It's extremely overwhelming. It's a terrifying feeling. Anybody who's had ego death will say it's terrifying. And what he was saying is that from that terrifying, we create a terrestrial plane to land on. We're creating this thing to place our consciousness on, this plane of a terrestrial, to save us from the terror of the overwhelming responsible nature of the void, which of course is an illusion, but it is terrifying nonetheless. I thought that was very, very interesting. Dancer says, Ford, do you have a regular weekly stream? Yes, this is it. I do it every Sunday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And then I also I leave the live streams up, just so you know. They're under the live stream tab on my channel. But if you don't typically watch live streams, YouTube is not going to recommend it to you, which is why I do an edited version of all these live streams, and I put them up later on. They're usually a few weeks behind, so by the time I can get to the editing is kind of a long process. So I'll do the live stream, and then within a few weeks it'll be up as a regular video. But if you want to be in on the live stream and contribute, then it's every Sunday night at 11 p.m. Awesome. Boy, so many new names in here tonight. This is great. So anybody else want to talk about anything? Doesn't have to be about this. We can go off topic if you want to. Got some questions earlier about the sun and the solar eclipse. Everybody's worried about that. Everybody's waiting for us to see demons tomorrow. I don't know. People ask me about this, and it's kind of like asking me, what do I think is going to happen in the movie? I don't know. I'm getting my popcorn too. I'm watching the movie just like you are. And the movie is going to be the movie. What the movie is going to do has nothing to do with what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is breaking free from the movie. But nonetheless, the movie is going to play tomorrow, and we will all be experiencing the movie. And I have a feeling that a lot of the excitement that is going on is probably some sort of psyop. Please keep in mind that we are in the midst of World War III, and it's a war of psychological operations. It's no longer bombs and bullets. It's memes. It's a meme war, you know. And so what's really going to happen, I don't know. If there is a concerning element to this, it is that powers that be for sure practice magic. So the eclipse tomorrow would metaphorically represent a very powerful day in the sense of magic with a K. So it wouldn't surprise me if something major did happen during the eclipse as a form of a magic ritual. But as far as magic rays coming from the sun and earthquakes and all this other stuff, shifting of the poles, I don't know. I think that's kind of a little bit much of kind of a psyop. We'll see. I'll pop some popcorn and we'll see. A lot of people want me to come out here and talk about that tonight, but I want to talk to things that I can speak genuinely on. And I don't really know a whole lot about the stuff that's going on in the movie. I can suspect what's going on in the movie, but I'm just like you. Just like you. Awesome. All right. Well, I've been on here for a little over an hour. If there's not any more questions, please drop me a question and I'll keep going. I'll keep on blabbering. If not, everybody can go to bed. My dog has already beat us. He's snoring up a storm in here. Awesome. 3 questions in the queue. Okay, Joel, let's see. I'm learning how to do this thing. Okay. Nope. Darn it. I don't know how to use this thing, Joel. I'm sorry. Are there questions in there? Shoot. Sorry, guys. First time using it? I don't know. If you have a question, just type it real quick for me, because I don't know how to... Joel was very kind enough to set up this system for me to answer questions, and I can't figure it out, so bear with me. All right. Oh, tab live chat. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. Oh, here we go. Got it. Las Vegas Beat says, I struggle with destiny and law of attraction. How much can we attract in life if we have a predetermined outcome and plan? Forget the predetermined outcome and plan. You have a directory, a destination that you might have, like the gun was shot out of the barrel and it's going that, but you can change it at any time. You're not necessarily stuck going in some direction or plan. Destiny, you say you struggle with destiny and law of attraction. Oh, how so? You can attract, to answer your question directly about law of attraction, how much can we attract in life? You can attract anything you want in life. There is no limit to what you can attract in life. To the things that seem ridiculous, you'll get a smart ass answer. So like, let's say you're 5'2" and you want to play professional basketball. You probably won't get that dream fulfilled, but you'll get some sort of smart-ass answer, or smart-ass version of that will be fulfilled for you. Maybe you'll get a basketball for Christmas or some kind of thing like that. The universe will definitely have fun with you. But the law of attraction, I have a whole episode on law of attraction, Las Vegas Beats. Just check it out, and I get very heavily into how to do it. And to answer your question directly, there is no limit to what you can manifest for yourself. Absolutely no limit. And don't worry about your destiny. You decide who you want to be. That's your decision. Nobody can tell you who you are. Nobody. Yvonne Renee says, I heard a couple of times that we now have 9 chakras. We have 108 chakras, actually. There's 108. There are 7 main chakras. Just like in music, you have 12 notes, but only 7 of the 12 are in key with one another. So even though I have 12 notes in an octave on music, not every note works. Only 7 of them will play beautifully and harmonically together. We really have 108 chakras. I think there's some, I've heard that there's even more than that, but there's 108 accepted chakras in Chinese medicine, and they're the 7 main chakras that we focus on for this. Hope that answers your question. T. Robinson says, can you sum up the adversary? Yes. The adversary is the god of this world. So because you are the Christ consciousness, you are the Christ here, all things exist in duality. So because you exist as the sun on earth, then the dual aspect of you also has to exist. So therefore, there is an adversarial component to you in the world. We can call this the Antichrist, or we can call this the devil. But rather than think about it as a figure, which kind of makes it sound like a movie or it sounds a little bit ridiculous, just think about it as a force in the world that is the antithesis of your force in the world. So in every way that you're going to work in this world to awaken to the metaphysical aspects, And really what we're all trying to do, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, is we're trying to awaken ourselves from the psychophysical plane, and we're trying to reach the metaphysical plane. We're trying to reach up and pull the metaphysical plane into the psychophysical plane. That's what we're trying to do. And the adversary, think of it as like gravity. The adversary, its only job is to keep this a secret, because that keeps the game going. So don't look at the adversary as like the devil and it's evil. I mean, yes, it's evil. It has all kinds of darkness to it, and I'm not saying make friends with the devil by any stretch of the imagination, but just recognize that this adversarial force is always working against you. Always. And it's going to appear in your life as tests. You'll have these tests. These are tests of integrity. Are you going to have faith in yourself, or are you going to give in to the fear of what the adversary is presenting? So that's the adversary. And then the adversary, Robinson says, is the adversary an actual entity or more energy? Or it is a part of us. The adversary is definitely a part of us. If you want to attribute it to us directly, you can kind of say that the shadow is the mechanism through which the force of the adversary messes with us. So we've stored a lot of trauma in our life into the lower subconscious aspects of our mind. Everything that we were disapproved of in life has been filed away in the subconscious aspects. So these are all the aspects of ourselves that we think are shameful or terrible or ugly or whatever. And we put these down in here, and these are the parts of ourselves that nobody gets to see, except for maybe our spouse or something who can see one or two of these things. But there's a whole iceberg of things about ourselves that we don't let anyone see. And when we're authentic, we express all of these things. But most of us can't be authentic. So what the adversary does is it reaches into these subconscious aspects of ourselves and tortures us with these things. And that's how you could say that the adversary is a part of us. But the adversary is just a part, is a necessary component for the experience of life. You have nothing and you have something, right? And you can't have this push-pull of everything and nothing. It's between the two, pushing and pulling of everything and nothing, that creates the experience of life. Just like there's a God of the metaphysical aspects, there has to be a God of the psychophysical aspects. It doesn't have to necessarily have an archetype. It could just be a force. We could say it's the force and the dark force. Awesome. I hope that answers your questions. Any more questions? You guys good? Dancer says, so would a form of adversary be using drugs or alcohol? The drugs or alcohol, it depends on if you're abusing them or not. Alcohol, for sure. I would say alcohol or spirits. They don't call them spirits for nothing. And drugs create a vessel. Alcohol specifically makes you an open vessel for the adversary to come in. I'm not a role model. I'm not going to sit here and tell people not to drink and not to do drugs and all that stuff. You do you, and I some of the most profound aspects of my spiritual awakening came from doing psychedelics. I don't drink personally. It's just not my thing. I will have a drink now and then to be social at a party, but drinking is just not my thing generally. And that goes the same for drugs too. As far as drugs go, I'm only into psychedelics and I'm into the spiritual gnosis. But no judgment if that's your thing. But just recognize that those are definitely windows into the deeper aspects of you that can very, very easily be filled in with the adversary. I hope that helps, Dancer. Awesome. Well, if there's no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. You guys are good? Thank you guys very much for showing up. We had a really nice crowd in here again tonight. I love you guys very, very much. And I will be back again next Sunday night. And if there are topics you want me to cover in this, please just drop me a comment. I read every single one. And I'm here for you. I want to be able to help you through this and make the playground even bigger. So if there's anything you want me to focus on, I'll be happy to talk about it. Just drop me a comment. And do me a favor, hit the like button and drop me a comment on this. It makes a huge difference on a small channel. I really appreciate you. Well, thank you guys again very, very much. So good to see everybody. And I'll see you guys next Sunday. All right.